So today's Torah portion is called Emor. That's right. It's called Emor, and that means say, like I'm telling you to say something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that comes from Leviticus 21, verse 1, when Yahweh says to Moses, speak to the priests. So sometimes good Hebrew is kind of bad English, because it would more literally says like, Yahweh said to Moses, say to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say to them. So it's like, say to the priests and say to them. So, that's good Hebrew, but it's not good English. So sometimes we don't like do redundancy in English, so they might fix it a little bit. So that's the word Emor, and I'm just showing you all this Hebrew stuff because I just remember the letters are the big blocky square ones, right? And then you have all these kind of crazy dots. And I know it looks really complicated, and I'm going to come back to that at the end. So just remember all these dots and stuff, right? So Leviticus 23, God says, these are my appointed feasts. These are my feasts, right? So how would we, if you look up the definition of the word feast, you might find something like this. An elaborate and usually abundant meal, accompanied with a ceremony or entertainment. So when we have the word feast, we kind of think of a lot of food, right? Am I wrong, right? Okay. So what about Day of Atonement? Yeah. So is that a feast? Okay. Well, let's look at what the Hebrew word is, right? So the Hebrew word, if you're not familiar, one of the words translated feast is the word moed. And that comes from the word ya'ad. And if you look that up, okay, we're going to get a lot of information, so try and focus. Kind of means like to fix upon, or like to set, okay? Could mean like to meet together, all right? To summon, that's kind of like meeting together. Okay, so engage for marriage, you're setting up some sort of appointment, right? Okay. So here's that word used in Numbers 10 when it says that they will gather themselves together at the tent of meeting. Here's another place where it says, I guess this is God talking to Moses, I believe, and there I will meet with you, at in the tabernacle there. So these are two places where it's translated like to meet, right, or to gather, assemble, right? So the best term I could like say this means is like to set a time, to set a meeting, set an appointment type of thing, right? So moed would be more along the lines of an appointed time, an appointment, right? Okay, so Yom Kippur is an appointment. That makes sense. Not necessarily having a bunch of food or something like that. So from there, this, some of you might know that this word is already found in the book of Genesis, chapter 1. Do y'all know that? Yeah, moed. The word translated feast most of the time is in Genesis chapter 1 in this verse. Yeah, some people know this. So if you don't know this, any guesses to which word it is? Yes, it's the word seasons. Now, just real quickly kind of pointing back to some things I talked about earlier about function and stuff. So you have the day, he made the stars and stuff and the lights. What are the function of them? For signs and for the moed, the moedim, the feasts, or all that stuff is all there. It's all there in the book of Genesis. So we pointed out that this word kind of meant like to set a meeting, right? We saw it was translated to assemble and stuff. So you have the word edah, and that's the word generally translated congregation in your Bible. So we see that. There's a couple other weird words that I'm not going to go into, but seem to be related, is the word aid, which is witness, and edut, which is the word for testimony, like the ark of the testimony. So you kind of have Israel being the edah, congregation, that are meeting together, ya'ad, at the moed, at the tent of witness, or tent of testimony, or tent of witness, things like that. So like, oh, wow, it's all connected. In fact, here, that verse I just showed you a minute ago, you have the edah, ya'ad, and edut right there. So they're all in one verse, right in that verse. There's another word translated feast, though, and it's right here also in Leviticus 23 for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Do y'all know what the other Hebrew word for feast is? Chag, like Chag Sameach, right? Okay, I knew some of you knew this. And this word comes from the word Chagag, what's my next slide? Some people have a hard time translating it. I guess I would say it means like to celebrate, but when you look this word up, you'll see that it means to move in a circle. Okay? To go in a circle. Okay, yeah, it's actually, Norma's talking to me. So she said to dance, right? And this word Chagag is translated dance in one place in the Bible. And, so that is one idea it could be. Where's my next slide? But I think that it has to do with the holidays being a cyclical thing around the year. Holidays, it's a yearly cycle. So that's my opinion on what it's talking about by being some cyclical thing. All right, so there's a little bit of modern Hebrew, but what would you call this? A circle, right? So you have chug, all right? Remember the word was chag and chagag, so we have chug, a circle, right? This, we have the word machog, and it's not the clock, but it's the hands on the clock, because they go in a circle. And how about, is anybody familiar with these old phones? All right, so we have the word chiyeg, and that's a verb, and it's the modern Hebrew word meaning to dial something. So, yeah, to dial. So, all these words having to do with something moving in some sort of circular motion. So, I'm just showing like the word for holiday or feast having to do with something cyclical. So that's kind of neat. Now we have the word convocation, right? So if you look that word up, it's the word mikra, and it kind of means like called out. Also another word meaning to meet up, and kind of with the word rehearsal there. That's also kind of interesting because we have the word convocation and the word mikra. The verb is that it comes from is kara, and that can mean like to call, like when God called out light, or he named day and night and all those things. Or when the name of this whole book, Vayikra, and he called, calling out, right? The same word also kind of means to meet. Okay, so we kind of have kind of meeting together, congregating. Convocation means like, con means with, and vak is like voice or vocal. So by calling out. Then you also have the word, same word, it's all the same word. I just put it 3 times. It's also the word to read. Okay, think about it. You didn't have, we kind of take for granted that we have Bibles with us everywhere we go, or we could. You have it on your phone. You go home and you have one. They didn't have that. Thousands of years ago, you had to go somewhere, and you would have someone that would read. And how would they read it? They'd have to read it out loud. So it's like to call, just to read out loud. Everyone comes together, right, to meet up, so that someone can call out the scriptures. Okay. Another word. Remember, this was convocation. It said rehearsal. Another word that's synonymous with that is the word recital. Okay. Rehearsal, recital, that's kind of interesting, all coming together. And the Hebrew scriptures are actually traditionally chanted, right? I don't know if you heard about that, how they actually like kind of sing them. Well, back to my first slide with all the dots. Some of you might have tried learning Hebrew, and you look at all this craziness, and you're like, that's too much. Like, what is all this? So you might have gotten discouraged from that, and I just want to let you know that these dots, okay, some of them are vowels, but like half these other dots are cantillation symbols, which means they tell you how to sing them. Okay, so like, I don't know what this little diagonal thing there is, and whatever that is, and this, like, so I'm just letting you know, like, there's a bunch of these dots that if you want to learn Hebrew, like you could ignore those. It's not as complicated as it actually looks here. So I think that's it. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you. I thought you were actually going to sing that for us.
What's that?
I thought you were going to sing that for us.
No. Okay.
So let me
Wanna
share
go back?
something. Look, just check this out right here. So we're looking at 23rd Psalm.
Mhm.
Have you looked at this one?
All right. That's a different word for circle.
It
and
is,
cycle.
but watch. Watch what happens. Okay, look where it comes from, which sounds like the root word of.
It's a very similar word. Some people say that it is related. So you have the word agol here, which is some people say is slightly related to chag. So chag, kind of. Hebrews like that, where like if you switch a letter with like a very similar letter, it still retains quite a bit of its meaning. So it's actually very interesting how Hebrew does that kind of stuff.
So
Yeah.
so we were looking at, and I don't know why all of a sudden we're getting feedback. Like, I guess I don't know. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
In the 23rd Psalm, it says, "He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his namesake." And it's actually what it reminded me of when Danny was explaining that, is the word there is magalah, but it comes from, it's that the argol is, or agol is the root of it. And it means the track, the trench. It literally means like the trench. And where that word is used is when they have an animal, particularly like a donkey or something, that's grinding olives or whatever he's grinding. They've got him on a mill, and he walks that circular path, that pattern. After a while, in the beginning, somebody has to lead him, to train him to do that. But after a while, they can just let go, and he doesn't fight it. He just walks it naturally. He just walks around and around and grinds it. He will walk it to the point where he creates a trench where he walks, and that's this word, the argol, the trench that he's walking in. And it's that paths of righteousness, which gets right back to the cyclical nature of God's feasts, and how it creates this time that's, an annual time. So if we follow his pattern, we will end up just naturally creating this pattern in our life that we just come to expect.
Can I add one little thing?
Please.
Because I've heard what you talked about before, and someone mentioned that once it develops that little rut or path around, they don't have to lead it anymore, because it'll just see that path and just does it by itself.
And that's exactly what happens, is that he will follow that trench, he will follow that argol just naturally. And we do the same thing. If we grow up, if we learn to keep his feast. Go ahead, Chris.
The child is the way they should go.
Yep.
And when they're
So,
older, they won't.
There you go. That's the same. And just for the people that didn't hear that, Chris, you just said, the instruction is train up a child in the way in the path, in the way they should go, and when they're older, see Yahweh, after they can do it, said when they're older, they won't depart from it. That kind of tells us there's going to be some bumpy parts there, but when they're older, they're going to go back to that natural path and follow that path, follow that path of righteousness. What is righteous? It's God's instructions. Amen.